Earlier, I spoke to the former Conservative Minister David Davis, former contender for the party leadership. He made a documentary called A Working Class Tory is Something to Be. I asked him how important he thought the working class vote is to the Conservatives.
Oh, massively important. I mean, right back in the origins, as over a century ago, we held by far and away the majority of working class votes. Basically, what you might call the sort of what they would call themselves a respectable working class, aspirant, hard-working, saved money, wanted their children to get on, and so on. Today, that class is probably a slightly different classification. It's working and lower middle class, but nevertheless, it's the same group. It's a sort of hard-working, aspirant working class. Has always been important. Incidentally, the arithmetic of elections means you can't win without them, so you have to hang on to, if not a majority, a significant group of them. I mean, the most outstanding Conservative leader of modern times, Margaret Thatcher, had a big group of them because she appealed to their ambition, their wish to get on, their belief that they're going to be looked after. The trouble today is that with so much austerity, so much pressure, a lot of the working class and lower middle class voters feel they've been sort of pushed off the escalator. And the effect of that is they start to resent those who they think are still on the escalator or possibly even at the top of the escalator. And of course that works worst against Tory politicians than it does against any others.
Why is that?
Well, partly because they think we're better off. They think we're toffs. I mean, the truth of the matter is that, they look at the front bench, they see them all very well dressed, well turned out, well fed, and perhaps feel that they're in a different world to them. And that's why the "we're all in this together" phrase is very important, but at the moment it's not working.
And do you think that's why the pasty tax business is potentially dangerous for the Conservative Party, because it promotes that idea of the Conservatives being snooty and not understanding the rest of the country?
Yes, it's an unfair allegation, but I'm afraid it's right. It's a powerful one, and it works against us. And it's a whole range of things. Pasty tax is the most current, but the child benefit episode, you wouldn't think that's working class, but it is striving class. It's lower middle class, certainly in the south of England. They all come together to make people feel, well, actually, these people don't know how we feel and work and what our lives are like. And unfortunately, that's a very dangerous allegation to make against a political party if it sticks.
And do you think that the changes to pensioner personal allowances, dubbed the granny tax, do you think that does feed into some of this as well? Oh,
very much so. I mean, by definition, that's not working class in the proper definition of the word, but it does make people feel, well, the less well off, those who are having to scratch together a bit to make ends meet. That category of people who feel that they've led a decent life, they've paid their way, they've paid their taxes. You often get letters saying, I've never taken a day sick in my life, or I've never taken a penny out of the state in my life, suddenly feel they're not being treated fairly. And these are literally the people who feel they're being pushed off the escalator. Then that will all feed into this general, I suppose it's a greater class divide. I mean, it's not a classical class divide because it's striving versus others, but it is a new class divide, and it's a wider one in some ways today because of austerity than it's been in the past.
Do you think Downing Street should be worried by the attacks in the tabloid press over the pasty tax? I think the Sun is down at Westminster today handing out free pasties, or will that just seem like a kind of flash in the pan?
Well, no, I don't think. For other reasons. The current tensions between media and politics will continue to feed it, but I don't think it's a flash in the pan. The trouble is, if it sticks, it's dangerous and difficult to get rid of, and governments always have to watch this, that they don't get stuck with an impression that plays against them. In John Major's day, it was sleaze, if you remember. Today, this may be its equivalent. And if it sticks, then it makes almost everything you do impossible to make work. So no, I would worry about it. If I were advising in Downing Street today, I would worry about this. It's not an insuperable problem yet, but it's one they've got to get a grip of and solve.
And you have pictures of George Osborne in yesterday's Sun dressed as Marie Antoinette, the headline, "Let them eat cold pasty."
Yeah, well, that doesn't help either. but the trouble is that when governments get into this position of everybody wanting to have a bash, then there is no sophisticated and clever way through it. You have to live through it and then put right what is at the fundamentals, And what's at the fundamentals here is a mixture of a sense of aspiration, a sense of fairness, what the French would call solidarity, social solidarity. You've got to somehow find a way of re-establishing that. And that won't be easy, but it's absolutely necessary.
Well, the Prime Minister did say yesterday that he liked pasties.
Well, the other thing about all of this is whatever you do, actually acting a part doesn't do this. I mean, you can't sort of put this on. You can't put this on like a suit of clothes. It's got to come across as sincere. Now, I actually think that's perfectly possible. I actually think David does have a strong sense of social justice. I do think he and sometimes he can make that show. But what he's got to do is make that show. He's got to make his real sense of social justice show, not take advice from 25-year-old PR people who are saying, "Oh, try this photo opportunity, Prime Minister." That's not the way. Straight sincerity, meaning it, is what will actually get them out of this.
David Davis, joined now by the